So we are revisiting circles. We're actually going to be looking at the whole family that involves circles. These are called quadratic relations, but that's beside the point. So circle is a set of points in a plane equidistant from a fixed given point called the center. So the center is always fixed, and so is the distance to any point around the edge. And we know all the other vocabulary. I do invite you to go to this investigation and play around with circles and the equation of circles for a little while, and then maybe coming back to the notes. This is a really good investigation, so if you want to pause this video and go to that investigation first and then come back, that would probably be a fabulous idea. Now, we're going to develop the basic equation of a circle using any center. So remember, this center is set in stone, so I'm putting that in black. It's set in stone. The length of the radius is also set. That's going to be a set fixed value. Now, as I go around the circle, the point on the edge of the circle changes. It is a variable. It is changing as we move around. That is going to be a variable, and it's an x and a y variable. Now, notice that I can have an x value that has more than one y. So this would be a positive and this would be a negative. So my video kind of stalled out in the middle of that. But if we have a fixed radius, a fixed center, and we're moving around the circle, these are always changing, so these will be our variables. But the relationship between these pieces of information are the fact that I can make a right triangle. And then we know some special stuff like Pythagorean Theorem. Leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So this leg is my horizontal distance, or my change in x values. So this would be x minus h. This would be the change in y values, so it's y minus k. Now, using Pythagorean Theorem, that means this leg squared plus this leg squared equals the radius squared. Now, in that formula, we should know h, k, and r. The x and the y are variables. There'll always be an x and a y. Okay, so let's use the next one as an example. The center is 2, 3. So the center is our h and our k. So this would be h, and this would be k. Has a radius of 4, so this is my radius. So I'm just going to plug that information in. So x minus h, so x minus 2 squared, plus y minus k equals r squared, which would be 16, because 4 squared is 16. The point 2, negative 5 lies on a circle whose center is the origin. So we know the origin, 0, 0. That's my h and my k. On this one, though, we don't know our radius yet. So let's see what we can do with what we do know. Well, I'm going to use this equation of a circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals, I don't know my radius yet. So that's an unknown, but I need to know it. Well, let's simplify this a little bit. X minus 0 is x. Y minus 0 is y, equals that r squared. I still need to know r squared. I need to know r or r squared. We have this point. This is a specific point on the circle, somewhere around the circle. It's an xy value that will make this equation true. So what I can do is I can come off to the side and plug in that x and that y. And so I'm going to plug it into this one. So 2 squared plus negative 5 squared equals r squared. That's 4 plus 25 equals r squared. So 29 is r squared. Now I could go on and find that the square root of 20. Okay, so my video kind of cut out, so this may be choppy. I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on with the computer here. So I found that r squared is 29, and that's what I actually need for the equation. The next one, I'm given endpoints of the diameter. So now let's remember the diameter is the middle, the goes through the middle, so it goes through the center all the way across the circle. So half of the diameter would be a radius. Also, halfway between those two endpoints would be my center. So let's think about how we would find that halfway point. We would look for the midpoint. And the midpoint is halfway. So I would average my x's and then average my y's, which that one's really easy because they're the same. Now I could have graphed this as well and just found the center by graphing and counting, but I want to do it mathematically as well. So negative 1 plus 5 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And since those are the same, they'll average to be the same. Now I need to know the radius as well. So if I had plotted these, which, well, let's go ahead and do that. So negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we found the center to be right in the middle. So if I plot the points out, I can actually just count and find my radius, or I could use the technique that we did up there. And the radius would be 1, 2, 3, because it's 3 steps over to either way. So the radius is 3. Now I can write my equation. This is going to be my h and my k. So I have x minus h plus y minus a negative 3 equals r squared. Now be careful here, when I subtract a negative, that is going to turn into a plus. Let's continue. Now let's look at graphing. What if I was given the equation? Could I graph it? So now I need to kind of work backwards and think about that formula again. So I'm going to write the formula at the top of the page. All right, so here I have x minus 1 squared. So I kind of know my h already, but the y, it's not in parentheses, so that actually means that I have y minus 0 squared, and then 9 could be rewritten as 3 squared. So I can find my center. It's going to be hk, so 1, 0, and the radius is 3. So if I'm graphing this circle, I'm going to come over here and plot my center, and then count out 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And connect the dots. Now, this graph is not perfectly, it's kind of... Okay, there's a couple of issues with this problem. First off, I don't really like these 4s being there. So guess what we can do? As long as I do it to both sides of the equation, I'm okay. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So 4x squared divided by 4 would just be x squared, and this would just be y squared, equals, and then 128 divided by 4 is going to be 32. Now this is really x minus 0 squared and y minus 0 squared, and 32. So the radius is the square root of 32. I know that's weird, but that's kind of how it's going to be. So the center is going to be 0, 0. And the radius is the square root of 32, which for graphing, I would actually go to my calculator, which I am, and that's going to be approximately 5.66. Because it was not a perfect square, I have to kind of estimate, which is okay. So my center's at 0, 0, and I'm going to go out 5 and a little bit. 5 and a little bit, 5 and a little bit, 5 and a little bit. I messed up over here. There it is. All right. And connect the dots. And it does looking a little oval on these graphs, but that's okay. Now the last one. Oh, we've got some problems here. First off, it's not set up like the one above it, where it just had x squared and y squared. And it does not have the parentheses. So we're going to have to do the old technique of completing the square. So let me remind you what I would want to do. So first off, let's group variables. So I'm going to put all the x's together. And I'm going to leave myself a little bit of space, and I'm going to put the y's together. And since the 1 is not a variable, I'm going to move it to the other side. Oh no, so I'm running out of room. So I'm going to put equals. When I move it to the other side, it's a -1. What I would really like is to have something squared plus something squared. I'd really like this to be x plus or minus something and x plus or minus something squared. So if we remember way back when, this is going to be half of that middle number. So we're going to take half, and that would be a -1. And then we're missing something here to make that true. It would be this number squared. Now I can't just add 1 to one side just for fun. If I add 1 to the left side of the equation, I have to add 1 to the right side of the equation. Let's look at the next one. Half. Whoops, this should have been a y. Oh goodness. Half of 4 would be +2, and then squared would be a +4. So -1 plus 1 plus 4, that's going to be a 4. So let's think about what our center and our radius would be. X minus 1. So h is 1. But this is +2, so that meant that it had to have been a -2, so minus a -2, so -2 here, and the radius would be 2. 1, -2, and then I'm going to go out 2, down 2, left 2, draw my circle.